Okay, so do you want to start off introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is James Strange.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm the U.S. product head at HSBC Banking Corporation.
Okay, so can you tell us where you were born and when?
I was born in Kuwait in 1970.
How is it that you were born in Kuwait, and where were your parents from?
I was born in Kuwait because my father was an engineer and he was working in refineries that were American back in the day, because in the 1970s there were American and foreign oil companies working in Kuwait to take out the oil from the ground, obviously, and refine it with the refineries. And he was one of those engineers that were using and building and putting in the refineries in Kuwait.
Okay, so how long were you there for, and what was it like living there?
So I was there for 12 years, so that's throughout the 70s. And I left just after the turn of the decade into the early 80s. So that takes me, from kindergarten all the way through 7th grade, which is when I left. So living in a foreign country, obviously, is very different. And especially living in a country that's so different from the Western civilization. So there was a bit of adapting to in living there, but again, living as a child, I got used to it very quickly. But growing up was interesting. Most of us had dirt bikes. A lot of times they would give us gas for free at the gas stations because gasoline was so cheap, which most people find very interesting. I think filling up my tank didn't even amount to a couple of cents back in the day, since we happened to be in an oil-producing country. But yeah, outside of that, I would say growing up there was a little bit different than growing up in other parts of the world. And I thought I had a good time because I had so much freedom. All my friends had so much freedom since we were on dirt bikes all day long. And we had places to go. It wasn't all built out as a grand city, but we were in an area that had city life, but we were also connected to parts where there was open land, and we were very close to the beach. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay. When did you leave Kuwait, and where did you move to next?
So by the time we left Kuwait, it was 1982, and my father was semi-retiring. So from there, my parents decided to leave Kuwait and move to Europe. So from there, we went to Spain. And interestingly enough, the timing couldn't have been better because a few short years after that, Iraq invaded Kuwait. So we're very happy that we were out of there by the time that invasion occurred. And I would say that it was quite traumatic to see on television, because I had friends that were still in Kuwait at the time the war broke out, and there were several moments where I saw the apartment building where I used to live, and tanks and gunfire happening in the areas I used to ride my dirt bike in and play with my friends. So seeing all that devastation and just literally stuff being blown up where I used to play and grow up was interesting. And interesting. It was tragic, really. But it's kind of funny how things work out, that I was one of the lucky ones that didn't have to go through all that. So yeah, after that it was into Europe. So now we're in the mid-80s. From there I was just when I started high school. So I was in Europe throughout high school. And once I graduated high school, from there it was time to go to college. And then my college career started in the U.S. And leaving for the U.S. at 18, so it's now 1988. It was my first time actually being a permanent resident of the U.S., even though I was an American, fluent in English and brought up within an American school system. It was my first time arriving to the United States. Other than that, my life had been spent overseas in Kuwait and in Spain, in Europe. So again, another culture shock coming into the U.S. at the time.
That's crazy. It's very interesting. Thank you for telling us your story.
My pleasure.